tripping, and this dude comes in just like a rage monster, right? Like, oh, I'm here to kick some fucking ass. Welcome. Come on in. Sit down, relax. How's it going? How's everybody doing out there in listener land? How was your week? Did you have a rough week at work? Was the guy that you sit by being a dick to you? Did your boss come up and scold you for something that wasn't your fault? It was some other asshole and you just got the bad rap for it? My week was okay. It wasn't bad. I think the spring vibes are what's kind of, everything's kind of, all the snow's melted now. Things are starting to get warmer, though. We got dusted overnight with some snow randomly. But overall, it's been really nice lately, and I think that's kind of getting out of that winter gloom has kind of sparked my, getting me motivated again. You know what I mean? But staying busy. Working on a really fun project right now that's got me really geeked. I've been doing, this podcast plus the pro wrestling podcast. And I've been trying to keep both of those afloat over the last month or so, whatever. I am starting another show, and it will be a streaming show. I don't know if this show will ever be streaming. I've debated it. I'm still debating about the Pro Wrestling Podcast 2. I think that will be maybe streaming at some point. I just think video, this one's just kind of like my audio journal, so I don't know that I really need to worry about it so much for this, but I think the future in general is kind of heading towards... not that every podcast is essentially an audio format, right? But I think more and more people are doing the video format to the shows, especially when it's going over on YouTube. And when you can do the audio on a podcast feed and you can do the video on YouTube, I think people prefer that as opposed to just kind of staring at a picture. But I mean, there's still lots of stare at the picture, the thumbnail videos out there too, so it's a mixed bag. But toying around with the idea of spreading the streaming around, but I will absolutely have a streaming show coming out soon, and it's not just going to be me. It will be with a partner. You may know of him if you are a listener from my rap days. It is my buddy boy Dusty Nuts. Me and Dusty are going to be doing a show. It's called Against the Grain. So I'm super excited for that. It is to the point where we are pretty much ready to drop very soon. So I would say it's imminent. I don't know that it'll be next week necessarily or the week after, but I would say within the month for sure. I would say by the time we get to the end of April, we will be live on a weekly basis. Maybe not live. We will be up and running on a weekly basis with a video format show. So I'm excited for that. Taking on a lot of extra shit. There's books I want to finish, all of that. And, truth be told, like, these podcasts eat up a lot of time. It's not just the recording. It's not as simple as just recording and, like, throwing it up. You got to do the video. You got to do the descriptions on the videos and add links and all that information. You got to do the tags. You got to fill out all the tags. And then you got to break it into clips and stuff like that if you really want to spread your wings and get out there. It's a tried and true formula, but it's a lot of work and just grinding, you know what I mean? Just grinding, trying to do that and tolerate a real work life as well. I think once I set a new goal as far as to like get out of like because I was my brain was set on I was gonna end up losing my job right over the mandate thing. So that's where my brain was heading. So it took me a little while to kind of adjust to going back to work and just doing the 9 to 5 gimmick, again for the long term. But I've kind of adjusted my goals and my game plan, and I think I got, I'm plotting my way out. Let's just say that. So, all in all, it's been a positive week for me. I think a lot of it was sparked by last weekend. I had the wonderful joy of being able to eat a bag of mushrooms. Chomp, 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 chomp. Have you ever eaten mushrooms? Like, do you think they're gross? To me, they don't really have a taste, even though they grow out of like shit, supposedly, if they're picked in the wild, I guess. People grow them in like labs now. But man, what a fucking wild, life changing experience. I don't know if you've ever done hallucinogens at all, but they're like, they're some of you will obviously just consider it a drug and probably a wild hard drug at that, but acid mushrooms to me are not so much drugs as in they impair you. I mean, you're certainly impaired. Like, I wouldn't recommend driving ever. I have done that once before, not this weekend or anything. It was a while ago. But I had driven myself home one night from tripping with a couple of girls. It was me hanging out with two girls. Yeah, that was fun. But we were tripping balls, and it got to be like 4 a.m, and I wasn't gonna spend the night there, so I drove myself home, and that was a unique experience all in itself. Don't recommend it. Very stupid, but you do stupid shit when you're younger. But I don't look as much as it does impair you, I guess, in that way. Like, to me, it's consciousness expanding, right? And that was certainly my experience that I had this past weekend. Water this time. No bang. I haven't gotten into the bang yet. I already had my morning coffee, recorded the pro wrestling podcast prior to this. A lot of recording going on, and I got a lot of editing to do. Can't edit on mushrooms either. I tried it until I couldn't anymore. Still working on them. I was still working as I was like editing thumbnails and shit like that. Till I just couldn't anymore. But to me, and here's why. Like, I had the most magical spiritual experience this past weekend. It was extra special to me, I will say, because since this whole COVID era, and I don't know that it's directly because of COVID necessarily, but just since this whole COVID era, I think a lot of other people too, people I talk to, like, it's not just me, but I feel kind of dead inside, to be flat out fucking honest with you. I'm very numb, very like, I'm not outgoing anymore. I don't have a passion for a lot of things anymore. Like, it's killed my soul in a lot of ways. I'm not the same person that I was just 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago. Can you believe it's been 2 years of this era? But when I got on the mushrooms, when they kicked in, like, you get this really, like, you can kind of feel like vibrating to a certain extent. Like, you get all tingly, and like, as it's ramping up, you can kind of feel that, right? So what my intuition was telling me while I was having this experience is it was you're just kind of vibrating up to a higher level, right? Like this is you kind of getting out of the earthly lower levels of vibration, of spirituality, the very earth based, solid earth based experience, up to a more higher spiritual level. And you start to be able to see, you don't see shit when you're tripping. Acid and mushrooms are essentially the same thing, by the way, if you're wondering. There's no real difference. Like, they're not. One's naturally grown. The other, like weed, mushrooms are natural. And then there's, acid, which is chemically made. But they both basically give you the same experience. I prefer mushrooms. I have done acid a couple times in the pandemic era, and it was great, and it was a spiritual experience, but it wasn't as profound as this mushroom trip was. What I found when they fully kicked in is like all of this rough outer shell, this chiseled stone heart, blackened, crusty, disgusting, drippy, goopy, whatever. You know what I mean? Like this nasty encasing that I'm in of darkness and blackness and just meh. It all went away. I became the person that I was when I was living my best life. There was a period. I've always kind of been a depressed person in general, like kind of emo in a way. Like I always my cartoon character could have a cloud above its head all the time. Um, but like in my brightest of moments and happiest of times, like this felt mad. Like this brought me like to my most pure form, I guess is the best way to say it. It stripped away all the earthly, all the COVID era, all the just crust and grizzle and the weight that the world bears on you was just gone. And it was like I was like my spiritual self. You know how they say, and I truly believe, and I won't go into this deep here, but I want to kind of maybe even do a discussion on this down the line on kind of my spiritual beliefs. But to an extent, like I think we all kind of believe, I guess, if you have any sense of spiritual beliefs at all, religion of any kind, that your spirit and your body are separate, right? My, I was living, I was inhabited by, or I was inhabiting my spirit. My body was gone, my earthly everything was gone, and I was having so much fun. I was living in pure joy. Like everything made sense to me. Like I was running around playing with my cat, right? And we were like I understood my cat, not like kind of like I can hear what my cat's saying or thinking, nothing like that, but it was like I understood the nature of a cat in general and the just the wild animalness, and like it just like everything you almost become. You're not omnipotent. Yeah, that's the word. Omnipotent. Nailed it. Nailed it. First try. Um, but like you just have like an enhanced sense of awareness or understanding, I guess is the best way to say it. So I'm just like vibing with my cat, running around playing with it, understanding that he's he knocks shit over, or he's jumping on tables or stuff that when I'm not tripping, that I like get all bent out of shape about, like, hey, get off the table, like, don't do that, don't sniff the food or whatever. Like when you're like tripping, you're like, yeah, check it out. You want to sniff? Here's a sniff. You know what I mean? Like you just understand that that's what the cat's trying to do. I started like flipping around on TikTok, going down a TikTok rabbit hole, which is super fun because when you're tripping, you have a short attention span, right? And so you're not quite you like you don't have the time to get into like a YouTube video, right? You can't just browse YouTube and shit. But like a TikTok, everything's so short and you can just swipe through shit till you find something cool. So that was a really fun experience. And I was just living my best life. I was so happy. I was joyful, and it wasn't like like when you smoke weed or you get drunk. It wasn't like that where you're like where it's like a false numbness or a false happy where you're just like, hey, what up, man? I'm so happy. Yeah, I'm drunk. No, it's like on a spiritual level. You're hyper aware of everything. You know, you have full understanding of like the existence and the magic of it, and like all these random things would come to me, like visually, like I would like not visually like you see it with your eyes, but like in your brain, you know, like these things pop in and it's like you're kind of contemplating life and stuff. And when you try to sit back and think deep, and like it would say like all this worldly stuff, you know, like to me it was just like I had this vision of it all just like shooting way off in the distance and being like, oh, none of this stuff matters. All of this is way over here. Like, here's what's important: family and friends, and living in the moment, and living your best life, being joyful, finding the fun in life, enjoying the little things. You know what I mean? Like, I ate the Dots Cheetos, the cheese curls that Dots puts out. You know, like Dots pretzels. They're fucking amazing if you've never had one. Um, but I ate the cheat. You just like, and they're fucking delicious because it's everything's magical. You have like, you're like a spiritual. You're like your purest form, spiritual energy, enlightened, happy, understanding, and you are experiencing the world. It's almost like through a kid's eyes before the world gets to you and makes you so stale, you know. And like, just it was just, I wish I remembered too, because I remember as I was falling asleep, there was like a list, like there's something about a list that I needed to make, or that I should make, or that I wanted to make, or like there was a lot of stuff being kind of fed to me almost as I was falling asleep, little just nuggets of life, you know what I mean? And when I woke up, it was almost dreamlike, where I didn't remember a lot of those nuggets, but I was just kind of hoping that they were ingrained in me. You know, maybe I can come back to them another time, but you know, like this was just such a powerful spiritual experience for me. One to the likes I've never had before. You know, I've done mushrooms, I've done acid before, and you know, like I said, I like mushrooms better, but they are essentially the same thing. They kind of cause the same effects in your body, your mind, you know, your trip, as you know, as they call it, as the kids call it, your trip. Um, and they're always enlightening, and you always get those nuggets. And sometimes people have bad trips because you got to put yourself in a good setting, right? Like if you're negative or angry or mad or something traumatizing happens while you're tripping, like I'll tell you this story. This is a fun story. So I was on mushrooms one time in like high school, and it was maybe a little like a year out of high school or whatever. I had an apartment with my buddy, and we were just chilling. And I there was a couple of us in the house that were tripping balls on mushrooms. I had friends over and stuff. It was like the pad, you know, the flop pad where everybody came to hang out and smoke their cigarettes and their weed and watch fucking Jay and Silent Bob on repeat. You know what I mean? So there was like a bar across the street, and sometimes there'd be fights outside, and we'd watch them out the windows, and that was always so dope. You know, it was like you know, being at a live UFC event. You know, it was one of the rowdier bars in town, and uh, anyway, so there was somebody like yelling through like the window in the kitchen or whatever, and I'm sitting on the couch in the living room, and he's like, it's like, hey, is so and so in there? And there was like a couple of those so and so's. I don't want to name a name. We'll say Steve, for example. It's not Steve, but hey, is Steve in there? And there's like two Steves. We're all like, which one? Yeah. We thought it was like, I don't know. And he was just like, I don't remember the exact details, to be honest with you, but he ended up coming in the house. Like, we thought it was one of our friends, like, coming over to hang out, you know, because people would just stop by and be like, hey, you know, and they fuck with you a little. We fucked with each other, so we didn't think nothing of it. We're just like, yeah, you know, come on in. And he came in through the back door, and it was just some dude from the bar across the street that, like, apparently one of the Steves in our house had been chatting with his girl. He's like, tried to fight Steve. I'm gonna kick Steve's ass. He came in like Billy Badass, and we're all fucked up, and like some of us are tripping. And this dude comes in just like a rage monster, right? Like, oh, I'm here to kick some fucking ass. Yeah, all whiskeyed up and stuff, you know. Let's go, bro. That kind of guy. And like, that shit'll blow your mind when you like, you don't want you got to be in a safe environment where you're not going nowhere, you're not doing nothing. Or I mean, if you're out and about, it can be a good club experience. I've done that too. I rapped a show on mushrooms before. I was a rapper. You know, I've gone to raves on mushrooms. Like, yeah, you know. I'm not gonna go through my whole drug history with you guys, but I mean, a lot of fun experiences. But you got to be in the right position, is what I'm saying. Because if you get one of those bad experiences, that shit can really fuck with you. But this was a beautiful, beautiful experience, and it brought me back in touch with my love energy. You know, after my last divorce, like I was kind of a negative person towards the end of that divorce, which caused that divorce. But then, like, partially caused it. It's not. It's always goes both ways, right? But like, it was like shortly after that where I just kind of got in touch with like love, and I was just kind of, I felt it too. Like, I felt like this radiating pure love energy, like just happiness, glad to be alive, friendly, open to people, and like nice to people, and just like spiritually just clicking on all cylinders. And I lived that way for a good few years, you know what I mean? And like a lot of good things happened because that energy spreads around, you know what I mean? You attract like energy. So all of that, like, I truly believe, you know? But shit's just gotten so heavy again lately, you know? And like I said, over the last couple of years, the COVID era, I felt like I've just kind of really slunk back into just being a fucking just a unhappy person, you know what I mean? And like uh just grizzled, and like I said, kind of heart of stone kind of thing, like, you know what I mean? And like all of that was just torn away, and I was just my pure magical spiritual essence, you know, like my full me energy. And it made me so happy too, because I thought that part of me was dead. I didn't know that I would ever see that part of me again. And I was like consciously aware that, hey, this is how I used to be and this is how I am now. Why am I like this? Why, and when will it go away? You know, when can I be happy again? When can things be fun again? When can I enjoy life again? And this showed me that that's in there, and that's what it told me. And again, you know, like, this kind of leans into beliefs a little bit. But I kind of believe that, you know, you can be fed messages spiritually, right? Like, things can come to you. It happens in maybe dream form a lot, but, you know, I was getting fed a lot of information on this trip as well, because I was open to it, I guess. You know, some of you might just be like, you're just fucking tripping, and maybe, you know, but either way, whether it's, you know, you're being fed shit or shit's just occurring to you because you're on drugs, either way, like, it's, you know, it's enlightening either way. So, you know, it really, it showed me that this is my true essence, and that this is still here. This is still inside of me. This is what I will be when I pass away. This is my true form. This is my purest most spiritual energy, highest form. You know what I mean? Like, and it just, I loved it. It was just the best time. I had so much fun. I had a smile on my face, and I reconnected with myself, which again, like, I never thought that that person would exist, and now I know that that's there, and I made that connection. I have bonded with my cat deeper, and I mean all of that, like, and I think in being, you know, a week removed from it now, like, a lot of that earthly grizzle and just life, the heaviness of life has come back, obviously, because I'm not on drugs anymore. You know, reality comes back in, and you gotta live with that again. You know, you gotta ride that out, and it was like, but that little bit, that time that I lived in, that experience that I had, a little bit of that comes with me. You know what I mean? So as I said, you know, I feel like spring, the spring energy has kind of brightened my day and made me a little bit happier and a little bit more excited, and put a little extra pep in my step, a little more energy for life. You know, I attribute that to spring, which, you know, a lot of that is, but just being warmer and sunnier and snow melting, all that shit, the gray skies and all that kind of goes away. But also, I think this really opened me up a little bit. And even though a lot of that heaviness of Earth came back to me, and a lot of that still weighs on me, because, you know, frankly, we live here on Earth and we're in this. So that weight, that heaviness, this is a lower vibration than a spiritual realm, you know? Can you hear my cat purring? It'd be awesome if you could. He's sitting on my lap right now, being a good boy. Good boy, huh, Goose? You good boy? But I took a little bit of that with me. You know, I got a little extra pep in my step. And maybe, you know, people do a lot of microdosing of mushrooms. Mushrooms are becoming much more accepted now. You know, because of the microdosing, people are starting to discover that that's a good, it's great for anxiety and depression, and it's just all of that kind of stuff. You know, it's doing wonders. Microdosing is where you're not really like impaired, but just that little bit of it kind of, it triggers those things in your brain. You know, like, to me, and some of you may disagree, or some of you just might not have any frame of reference to really know one way or another. You know, just take my word for it. Hallucinogens, trips, so mushrooms, acid, even like, I haven't tried peyote. It's like a cactus. There's ayahuasca too, which is supposed to be a really like intense version of this, which will just flat out bring you to like another dimension, basically. But I feel like those things they're spiritual. It's a spiritual energy, and I feel like it that's what they do, is they do impair you, but they expand your consciousness. I feel like, you know, you've always heard, and this may be a myth too, because I've heard it's a myth. I don't know for sure. But you always heard you don't use the full percentage of your brain, right? You only use a lower percentage of that or whatever. I don't know if that's true or not. But I would often describe mushrooms and acid to be like your brain. Your consciousness is expanding. You're unlocking things that this lower realm that we live in of Earth doesn't allow you to experience. You know, you see brighter colors or different shades of colors, and you feel vibrate. You literally can feel like vibrations. You know, your body is, you can feel like an energy flowing through your body, and that's kind of the body buzz of mushrooms, is this like, and it can be intense, and more intense with acid, in my opinion, and it depends on the dose. But it certainly wasn't as intense with the shrooms, but both of them do give you this intense body buzz, and it's kind of like a tingly, it's a tingliness, it's a almost uncomfortable at times. Like if you get tickled, it feels good, but it's almost too much. Um, it can be a bit intense sometimes, but I feel like you're feeling the vibrations of the universe, and you're feeling your vibrations rising. I mean, I truly believe, and just the things that will pop into your head, the open consciousness that it allows you to have, and the different ways that you look at things and understand things and see things. Like, this is the kind of shit that can make, like, some drunk, abusive fucking guy punches his wife in the face and shit like that. He could take some mushrooms and really, like, it could occur to him, like, oh, I hurt people. I can't do that anymore. Or some fucking junkie that ran away from home. Like, oh, like, I should probably talk to my parents and, like, get off the junk and make something of my life. Like, it really enlightens you. You really have those spiritual experiences where not only do you physically feel like you're on one, you're vibrating at a higher frequency, you're seeing brighter colors, everything's intense and everything's wonderful and amazing, but you're also getting this great insight on everything. And I mean, I think everybody should experience that. I mean, drugs aren't for everybody, but this isn't like, it's not heroin. It's not like, let me just fucking tap out of life and, oh, I could overdose and die, and this is just gonna make me an addicted junkie, and I'm gonna be so impaired that I can't even move or walk, or I'm gonna be all like, this is like, this brings you to a spiritual level. I'm telling you, that's what it is. It is opening up those higher frequencies, those higher dimensions, or it's bringing you up to those. I mean, it's the key to unlocking spiritual energy. You feel it, you see it, you experience it. And that's why it's so can be so life changing, and that's why the microdosing is making such great strides in science right now in medicine. That I think I mean, it's becoming fairly common now, so it's going to be within 10 years, I believe microdosing will probably be legal, if not mushrooms outright, because, like, they're not what they used to be considered back in the day. I always say it like this: the hippie drugs you can't go wrong with. If the hippies were doing it, you're fine. The junkie on the street corners doing it, you're not fine. And that's the way you tell good drugs, bad drugs. And this was certainly a good drug. So that was my experience, and I wanted to share it with you because I am a different person now because of it. I'm not where I want to be or who I want to be or who I even was at another time when I was a better person than I am now. But I feel like this was a step in that right direction, and it, at the very least, showed me that that person exists inside of me, that that energy is there, that spirit is there, and it never goes away. And that the things that weigh you down here on earth, that stress you out, that damage you, that break your heart, stomp on your soul, make you disgusted in your fellow man, things that make you lose trust, lose hope, make you worry and lose sleep overnight, bills, money, marriage, just everything, kids, job, all of it. That's all earth stuff here. All that can be very heavy, but that's not you. All that shit weighing you down, you don't take that with you when you leave this earth. You are a magical, spiritual being that's just here for a time, inhabiting a meat shell, going through this experience for the experience. And if you ever get the chance to take a trip, I recommend it. If you haven't, if you're not somebody that does that kind of stuff, then don't. Whatever. But I mean, it's funner, safer, more clear-headed, and a way better experience than even getting drunk. You get fucking blackout drunk before you go to the bar. Hey, how you doing? You're fucking blacked out. You don't even know your own name. You're such a fucking piece of shit when you get drunk. Eat a bag of mushrooms. You'll have fun. But don't take recommendations from me. I am not your doctor. Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I think that should pretty much cover it here. Thank you for hanging out and listening. You can follow me if you want to follow me on anything. It's going to be at Seth Grimes Media, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. I'm on YouTube as well. Just search for Seth Grimes Media. I'm on Rumble. I have NFTs, the Cryptomania NFTs, the pro wrestling inspired NFTs. Are available on OpenSea, Cryptomania NFT, or you could search CryptomaniaNFT.com. I got the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you have any interest in professional wrestling at all, or if you are a wrestling fan, then I recommend checking that out if you want to hear more. I break down podcasts, interviews, news that breaks in the wrestling world, basically cover everything outside the ring. I don't cover wrestling shows and matches and who won and lost. I kind of just talk about, hey, this guy was on this guy's podcast, and here's what he talked about, and here's this cool clip. So that's fun to check out, but my cat's telling me I should shut up now. He's starting to climb up on my face and stuff. So, all right, I will leave it there. Thank you guys for hanging out. I am your boy, Seth Grimes. Peace, love, and pizza.